Today on The Real Story, Puerto Rico devastated by Hurricane Fiona, the impact being felt right here in Connecticut. How families in the capital city are stepping up to make sure their loved ones on the island get the help they need. This morning, Aura Alvarado from the Capital Region Education Center and Hartford City Councilman James Sanchez tells us how Hartford is trying to help. Plus, the first round of opioid settlement money is expected to filter into Connecticut cities and towns. We're going to hear from two people on the front lines, the toll the opioid addiction has taken on many in the community and how the money is going to be distributed. Good morning, and thanks for joining us on The Real Story. I'm Jenn Bernstein. Puerto Rico once again trying to pick up the pieces after Hurricane Fiona pummeled the island. Power problems, no running water, homes devastated. This all happening while people living there are still recovering from Hurricane Maria 5 years ago. Puerto Rico may be hundreds of miles away, but the crisis on the island is being felt here in Connecticut, especially in the capital city. Hartford has a very large Puerto Rican population, and that means relief efforts are actively being organized, with many having family directly impacted, and local leaders are searching for ways to help. Fox 61's political reporter Emma Wolfhorst is with us now. Emma, you talked to State Representative Minnie Gonzalez. She's originally from Puerto Rico and is actually there right now. What did she tell you?
Yeah, Jen, she says Hurricane Fiona and the current situation is terrible, describing destroyed homes and people still without power or water. Now, this storm, like you said, hitting nearly 5 years since Hurricane Maria ravaged Puerto Rico. And as the territory looks to recovery efforts, some asking, are there lessons to be learned from the response to Maria? Last week, President Biden approved a disaster declaration for Puerto Rico, granting access to individual and public assistance for residents impacted by the storm. Blumenthal and his fellow Connecticut Senator Chris Murphy signed a letter with 41 other lawmakers urging President Biden approve this declaration. But Senator Blumenthal says emergency aid isn't enough. Gonzalez, one of those organizing relief efforts, but she says it's difficult as many people are still living with blue tarps from Maria.
Going through the hurricane and going through that experience is totally different, and it was terrible.
More than just repairing or patching, there has to be reconstructing and a permanent solution. We need to make sure that we treat our fellow Americans in Puerto Rico more fairly and sufficiently to meet their needs, just as we would any Americans.
A new 900-page report from the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights examined FEMA's response to Hurricane Maria. This is the first time the commission has assessed the civil rights implications of a natural disaster response ever. Officials say this report shows FEMA fell short in a number of situations. Senator Blumenthal told me what has been lacking so far is a long-term perspective, hoping now the government takes an all-hands-on-deck approach. Jen?
All right, Emma, thank you very much. And there are many people in the capital city connected to the Caribbean island. Joining us in studio this morning, Councilman James Sanchez from here in Hartford, as well as Aura Alvarado, who is from the Capital Region Education Center in Hartford. Aura co-led relief efforts here in the city after Hurricane Maria, and we know, Councilman Sanchez, that you had also helped in those. Thank you both so much for being here this morning.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Tell us just how connected Hartford is to Puerto Rico.
Well, I'll let Aura start first.
Thank you. Well, you know, 5 years ago, on September 20th, we were all doing our day-to-day, right? And then we heard what happened, and then we didn't realize how devastating Hurricane Maria was. And then we started hearing that people were trickling in because the power and the water and the lines, you couldn't get to the bank, you couldn't get to the gas station, nothing. So people started coming in. And at that time, my colleagues and I, we were all in a leadership retreat, a day of caring, sort of. And we were just hearing the news and, you know, being Puerto Rican and several of my colleagues being from the island, we were just devastated and we couldn't even think. So we started saying, what what can we do? And we're connected. I mean, our children in our correct magnet schools and in our student services, I mean, most of them are from Hartford, huge Latino population in our schools and in the Hartford Public Schools, so we are very connected. And we were just at the right time, at that moment 5 years ago, we had a building and it was empty, and we didn't have to pay rent because we had already done it. And so our executive leadership team, Dr. Florio and Sandy Cruz-Serrano and Tim Sullivan, we just started talking about what can we do. And so, you know, that's what we did 5 years ago.
Sure.
And did we learn a lot of things? I hope so. But do we still have a long way to go? Absolutely.
Was the pipeline already created since you had to gather resources and people to help 5 years ago? Do you feel like this time around you have the blueprint per se to help?
I would say so, that, you know, from the experience that we had 5 years ago with Hurricane Maria and also Irma, because it was a 1-2 punch when the island, you know, when Hurricane Maria went through. But it was a very challenging situation because I don't believe we ever experienced that kind of impact on the island.
Wow.
And thanks to Aurora and the team and the leadership that we've had between the council, CREC, CICD, Puerto Rican Parade, the Connecticut Institute for Community Development, we've all gained a new relationship and collaboration partnership where we've finally was able to, you know, get the tools and learn through the process to be prepared for a situation like it is now with Fiona.
Now, Councilman Sanchez, I mean, talk about personal. Your mother, you were saying, on the island right now. What are you hearing from her?
Well, it's been difficult for the last few days, and when I finally got through, it was only for a few seconds because it was breaking. The signal was pretty poor out there right now. You know, she's crying. The house got flooded out. She literally told me she was more afraid of this hurricane than the Hurricane of Maria that went through 5 years ago. And it's only because that this hurricane took a slow path through the island, 9 miles an hour, and just dropping all the precipitation, all the rain possible with the wind. And it had nowhere to go because for weeks, my mother was telling me, it's been raining, so the ground is saturated. So the water has nowhere to go, to the point where she literally told me it was coming through the roof, the windows because of the wind, and up through the floor under the door. So, and we're in a situation where the water should flow around us, but when you're talking about 30 inches,
Right.
That's just
Even when places are that are prone to flooding have those in place. If you have a storm just sitting over you and dumping rain,
Right.
you're going to have issues no
Correct.
matter what. That is just awful. So what's she doing now? Did she have help on the island? Or?
So at this moment, there's no help out there. They're just trying to find their way to you know, travel through the area, through the neighborhood. There's a lot of down trees. There's a lot of roads that's been washed out. They can't pass through. There's a couple of bridges in the area that's been washed away. And mostly it's just debris, and the flooding is still there. And then, you know, to my surprise, it was still raining after the hurricane left. So today was a dry day. It's going to start raining tomorrow, is what she told me.
Through
So
the
that's a
weekend.
real situation here.
I heard through the weekend.
Oh, wow. Okay, so
Right.
tell me some of the relief. I mean, how do you get resources to them right now? What's the biggest need, would you say, out there?
Well, from what I know, you know, again, what we learned 5 years, you know, you can't just start shipping things. I think, you know, when Hurricane Maria happened, everybody was doing their own thing. It took 4 or 5 weeks before everybody started talking to each other and saying, and then trying to get things there. So I know that some efforts from, you know, CICD, and when I talked to Sammy, you know, we learned now that it's not, we can't send things there yet. We have to wait. So now it's about collecting resources, funds, and making sure it gets to the right hands,
Right.
to the right agencies that are gonna use it for the right, you know, for the exact needs.
So when we did a collection, we actually did a huge collection at the Colts building. They had a warehouse, and they
For
donated.
Maria?
Yes, for
Okay.
Maria.
Yep.
So one of the main issue, exactly what Alda said, is the funding. We were so overwhelmed with the donation. We had filled out the warehouse and had nowhere else to put the rest of
Wow.
the donation. We actually had to bring it up to Willimantic, to another warehouse.
Got it.
And the second issue was funding for shipping the products. Now, unless JetBlue, American Airlines, or those airlines will offer space to help and support Puerto Rico and the cost to ship it over there, then we're stuck without the funding.
Interesting. Okay, and that's still a problem right now.
Oh, I would think so, yeah. I mean, unless these companies donate some shipping, then yes, could we collect items? Absolutely, but without that certainty, it's not worth it. It's better to collect funds, make sure if you're donating to someone, make sure you do your research.
Sure.
If you find a community leader in Puerto Rico that you trust, maybe. I know that CICD and all the parades coalitions are doing the Connecticut Helps Puerto Rico link.
Yeah, Otto, we're gonna put that up right now,
Yes.
so that you all can see. And Councilman Sanchez, you were just talking about this website. You told us as well. There's two websites here, and this is important because the organizations that, if you donate or you go on here, these have been vetted, right?
Correct.
They're going to have the right places, or the money that you donate is going to go to the right people in the right places.
Right.
Who's organizing this? I know you had talked about
it's,
Sammy.
Right. Sammy Vega is the president of the CICD, which stands for Connecticut Institute for Community Development, hyphenated Puerto Rican Parade. And they have vetted these two websites. And so when you donate to these two websites, they will be the fiduciary to make sure that the funding will go to the right and proper organizations out in Puerto Rico so that they can use it for the community.
So important. And you also were saying there's an event that you want people to know about as well.
Well, yeah, I just want to say that at CREC, we're mobilizing our employees because everybody wants to help.
Sure.
And so we, when Hurricane Maria happened, we chose AmeriCares. So that's where our funding is going because we've vetted them and we know that they're on the ground. And again, we're not only talking Puerto Rico, you've got Dominican Republics, Turks and Caicos, so AmeriCares is always in those islands. But so we're doing something internally, but myself and another friend of mine, we are doing an event, we were planning this event in honor of Hispanic Heritage Month.
Yep.
On October 12th, we're going to be at City Hall and at our inaugural event for Raíces,
Good.
which is, trying to identify and highlight and honor the unsung heroes. So I spoke to my partner today and, actually yesterday, and we decided that whatever we do at that event, the funds are going to go to help to do the Connecticut Helps Puerto Rico.
Okay, great. And we just had put up a graphic on the screen with information on that.
Yeah.
So important. And we have to wrap this conversation, but just really quickly, are you telling people that they should donate money or items at this point?
I think I think it's going to be up to the person, obviously. But if you're going to do funding, if you're going to donate, do your research, ask around. If you have family in the island and you can get it to them, I would say do that.
Sure.
If you want to do items, I think as we hear more needs, maybe some community leaders can get together and we can figure out how we get things there. Like if I was going to go to Puerto Rico, I'd make sure I take 2 or 3 suitcases with me of things, which is what happened during Hurricane Maria as well. Some of us traveled and brought lanterns and, food, non-perishable stuff like that. So it all depends. I would say keep an eye and do your research.
Okay.
Right. And I would probably just put it to the equation of a 40-60%, 40% items, 60% funding.
Oh, that's a good way to look at it.
Right. So that way we're assured that we have the ability to ship those items over. But as Alda said, if you can send the money directly to your family, do so.
Okay.
Do so. But don't donate cash.
Don't donate cash.
Right. Go on the website and donate it through the website.
Yeah, because right now people are helping each other.
Yep.
They're not even thinking of going to the government. I mean, I just heard an interview earlier before I got here, and it's like it's the.
This is right afterward.
Yes.
I mean, this is the assessment phase, and people are in survival mode at this point,
Exactly.
and they're still trying to assess what exactly happened on there. I mean, no
Right.
power, no water. It's pretty scary. We're thinking of your mother for
I
sure,
appreciate that.
and everyone else who's on the island of Puerto Rico right now. Councilman James Sanchez, as well as Aura Alvarado. Thank you very much for coming on The Real Story today.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
All right, coming up next on The Real Story, 2 advocates staring down opioid addiction and the lives it's taken in their communities every day. They're going to give us an inside look at how settlement money from Big Pharma could be used to tackle the crisis like never before. We'll be right back.